First of all, go ahead and show your support by hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This helps the work a lot and makes sure you always stay on top of everything happening with the Golden State Warriors. Deal? Then let's get to it, because there is a lot of important stuff to talk about. Welcome to your reference point to follow everything about the Golden State Warriors. Here the focus goes straight to what matters. What happens behind the scenes, front office moves, training news, roster evaluation, performance in each game, and, of course, the hottest rumors around the league. No beating around the bush, no empty talk. The goal is to bring context, explain why decisions are being made, and what they can mean for the franchise's near future. If you want to follow the team with clear information and a fast pace, you are in the right place. Let's start with a topic that has been generating heated debate among those who really pay attention to sports projects, long-term work, and identity building. In American football, there is a feeling that many analysts avoid recognizing Sean Payton's season as worthy of Coach of the Year. It is not just personal preference or roundtable chatter. It is that resistance that appears when a coach starts to reorganize a team in a deep way, changing culture, discipline, and competitiveness in a way that makes ready-made narratives uncomfortable. A true award candidate is not defined only by isolated wins, but by the transformation they lead. A team that changes its attitude, starts competing on equal terms, and understands exactly what identity it is building, reveals the coach's hand. Payton has the method, experience, and track record for that, and that is why part of the national media avoids giving him full credit. When the evidence shows up, the script many people had already memorized needs to be rewritten, and not everyone likes that work. This also shows how public perception influences even the internal environment. When a roster realizes it will not be applauded for free, the goal stops being to please commentators and becomes building a legacy. And when a group buys into that idea, it becomes more united, resilient, and mentally prepared to face tough stretches without falling apart. Switching to the NBA, this narrative dispute connects directly with what involves the Golden State Warriors today. The conversations about interest in Giannis Antetokounmpo do not come out of nowhere and are not random fantasy. They make sense within the team's current moment, and the desire to put alongside Stephen Curry a dominant physical force capable of immediately changing the team's competitive level. Any ambition of that size brings the same question: what needs to be sacrificed to achieve something that changes the franchise's future? No one gets a player of Giannis's level by offering leftovers. You have to make tough decisions that affect the fans' emotions and the identity built over years. And that is exactly what leaves a lot of people divided. To reach a deal of that magnitude, some very important piece of the current roster would probably need to be involved. The scenario becomes even more interesting when the possibility of a three-team trade enters the picture, involving the Warriors, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Chicago Bulls. If Milwaukee chose to give up its main player, it would naturally aim for draft picks and young players with lots of room to grow, thinking about a rebuild. Heavier veteran contracts in that context would need a third destination to make the cap mechanics work. That is where Chicago comes in as the logical facilitator. The Bulls have a clear need for competitive leadership and defensive presence. A veteran with a strong playoff profile could change the environment and the level of accountability within the roster. At the same time, they do not want to block the growth of young players who are taking on an increasingly important role. That is why certain rumors involving prospects have lost strength. It is not disrespect to their talent. It is a matter of priorities in the team's construction. For Milwaukee, the ideal return would include a very high upside young player, several first-round picks, and cap flexibility. Future picks have enormous value because they carry uncertainty. If a team bets heavily on the present, there is always the risk of a sharp drop later, increasing the value of those picks over time. This is exactly the kind of asset a franchise entering a new era looks for. For Golden State, the main question is not whether the price is high, but whether it is consistent with the impact Giannis delivers. He is not a tactical detail. He is a shift in the axis of the sports project. With him, the team stops depending almost exclusively on inspired nights from the perimeter and starts constantly threatening in the paint, in transition, and through physical dominance. Defensively, he covers space, corrects mistakes, and raises the collective ceiling. Imagining Giannis next to Curry is thinking about the union of two complementary forces. Curry stretches the floor, pulls defenders, creates zones of doubt. Giannis attacks those zones with speed and power. It is the combination of spacing with devastating drives. Wings who defend hard and hit long-range shots become even more important because they keep the offense fluid, while the Greek star finishes when the advantage appears. The emotional part weighs a lot. Involving one of the main defensive leaders in a trade shakes the fans and the locker room. But the NBA does not forgive teams that cling too tightly to the past. When there is a real chance to bring in a player capable of changing the league's hierarchy, the window does not stay open for long. That is what makes the front office think with a cold head, even with all the emotional weight involved. Parallel to this big picture, another name has caught the attention of Warriors fans: Soto. He returned to the court with a standout performance and showed clear evolution in his game. Against Kyoto, he scored 20 points, grabbed 4 rebounds, and dished out 3 assists. More than the numbers, the way he controlled the paint and made mature decisions in moments of pressure was impressive. Kai is close to reaching significant milestones in the B-League. He is just a few points away from 1,000 in his career, has already passed 500 rebounds, and is close to reaching 100 assists. This shows a complete impact on the court. He scores, protects the rim, helps create plays, and sustains constant physical presence. It is no surprise that analysts already see him as one of the most promising names in Asian basketball. Golden State fans have started asking for his arrival. The argument is simple. The team needs more presence in the paint. Someone who brings defensive protection, rebounding, and finishing near the rim to balance a roster that already has excellence on the perimeter. Kai fits that profile. Tall, with good court vision and international experience, he could be a low-cost, high-upside bet. His ability to learn quickly and improve every season stands out. Offensively, he finishes well around the basket and is gradually extending his shooting range. Defensively, he has the wingspan to contest shots and the presence to intimidate. In a system that values movement, intelligence, and reading of the game, he would have the ideal environment to speed up his development. And it is at this crossroads of possibilities that the Warriors' future takes on interesting outlines. At the same time as the franchise analyses a huge move involving Giannis Antetokounmpo, it also looks carefully at more discrete opportunities like Soto, which can strengthen the rotation and prepare the ground for new phases of the roster. By observing these two fronts, it becomes clear that the Golden State Warriors are living through a moment of decisions that can redefine the franchise's direction. On one side, a possible huge bet on one of the greatest players on the planet, capable of immediately raising the team's competitive level. On the other, the careful reading of rising talents like Soto, who represent the chance of gradual renewal, maintenance of competitiveness, and strengthening of the roster in the medium term. These two strategies are not contradictory. They complement each other. While a move for a superstar changes the present, the arrival of promising young players prepares tomorrow. The league shows every day that competitive teams need to unite these two lines: immediate power and continuous development. The mistake many franchises make is choosing only one path and ignoring the other. The Warriors, from their own experience, know that titles come when there are established stars, surrounded by young pieces that grow within a solid system. Kai symbolizes exactly this second pillar. He already shows enough maturity to contribute, but still has huge room for growth. His evolution as a passer shows he is not just a finishing big man. His shooting mechanics are improving bit by bit. Defensively, he is learning to use his height and wingspan even better, avoiding unnecessary fouls and controlling his positioning. In a team with a strong culture and high-level coaching, this kind of player tends to make bigger jumps. At the same time, the mere possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo wearing a Warriors jersey changes how the entire league looks at the franchise. The offensive dynamic is transformed. The defensive game plan gains a new layer of coverage, and the automatic respect from opponents increases. Rival coaches would already start studying specific ways to deal with a core that includes Curry and Giannis together, something that changes playoff series planning and roster priorities for other teams. This point is important. When a franchise makes a move of that magnitude, it does not just change itself, it changes the environment. Teams in the West start looking for more players capable of defending in transition and protecting the rim. Teams in the East adjust their rebuilding routes. Everything moves in reaction to what a giant does. It is the so-called domino effect of big trades. But none of these paths happens in a vacuum. They are born from the perception that the window of one of the greatest players in history, Stephen Curry, is not infinite. Even maintaining an extremely high level, time is a real factor. Being too conservative can mean wasting years of historic talent. Being too impulsive can compromise the future. It is in this delicate balance that the front office is walking now, and the fans feel that. That is why the debate is so intense. Some argue for betting everything on a star right now. Others prefer a more gradual process with youngsters like Kai. In practice, the club tries to unite both sides, keeping immediate competitiveness without completely giving up the future. The very growing interest from the fan base in Kai shows how the public understands the importance of renewing the foundation without abandoning a high standard. Going back to Kai's recent performances in the B-League, what is most impressive is not just the volume of points, but how he influences the game. By protecting the rim, he changes opponents' offensive decisions. By fighting for offensive rebounds, he creates extra possessions and easy baskets. By hitting mid-range and short-range shots, he forces defenders to step out of the paint, opening lanes for his teammates' drives. This reveals a player who already understands collective impact, not just individual shine. This kind of reading is valuable in the Warriors system. There, players who think the game, move without the ball, and understand spacing are boosted. Kai fits this philosophy. He does not depend on long isolations, nor does he monopolize the ball. He contributes efficiently, something essential alongside already established stars. At the same time, he would have room to learn from veterans, build more physical strength, and expand his offensive arsenal. If the future does reserve the NBA for him, the Warriors appear as one of the most interesting scenarios, not just because of the tactical fit, but because of an environment known for turning potential into reality. Players who arrived as prospects have already shown big growth there precisely because of the combination of high standards with a clear game structure. When we put it all together, we see a coherent picture. A historic team is looking for ways to extend its relevance. It is eyeing one of the greatest talents on the planet as a possible partner for its main star, and, at the same time, closely tracking the rise of a young center who can provide structural strength in the paint. There is no contradiction in that. There is multi-layered planning, and professional sport lives off this kind of crossroads. Moments when big decisions define future narratives. If the gigantic trade happens, it will be remembered for years. If the bet on youngsters pays off, it will be too. If the two paths meet, the Warriors may once again redraw the league's recent history, as they have done before. Until then, all that remains is to follow every step, every rumor, every performance report, and every game played, because it is in this day-to-day that big, silent turning points begin. Today, it may seem like just backstage talk. Tomorrow, it may be the headline that changes the NBA hierarchy. If you want to keep following all of this up close, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss any updates about the Golden State Warriors.